is here. Yes, so sorry, we were kicked out of Instagram Live because the session is going really good, I think.
Okay.
Let me recapitulate the last question. It said that the person feels really demotivated. They're not able to do simple tasks in day-to-day life. They're forcing themselves to do the simple task. And also they can't seem to be enjoying the present moment. They can't seem to be living in the present. So what is your advice to this person?
First of all, just try to focus on things as which things are forcing you into that trap of thinking.
Right.
What is it that is causing so much trouble that you really don't feel like enjoying yourself? There is something seriously wrong. Because if I'm doing well, I'm doing certain tasks, and I have things which should make me feel happy about, and I'm still not able to think that way, in a way
Right.
which is expected of me in that moment. Probably there are things which are occupying me a little too much, a little more than required, which is not letting me channelize all my energy towards the task that I do.
Right.
So that's why it's very important to find those things. If it's a relationship issue, or it's the work stress that's getting on to me, or it's the commute that causes trouble and leaves me physically and mentally fatigued, or is it just too many things at the same time and I'm trying to multitask, because multitasking is like an opportunity to screw more than one thing at a time. So
Right.
this is what, so it has to be very, you have to tease out things and try to find out the reason what is causing stress currently in my life, and try to work towards it. There is something definitely in the background which I'm not able to look at, so I have to find that thing.
Okay. And this demotivation that, so yeah, the same person is asking, I can't seem to do basic things like doing any hair or managing a workout or reading. I have a constant sadness or a low about everything. All my accomplishments seem unimportant.
Yeah, I've in a way answered this question earlier also. This is a severe level of sadness, which tends to hit my physical energy also.
Right.
So sometimes it's pretty difficult to directly hit my psychological aspect of the mood. So let's start from the physical aspect, which is a little easier to get on with.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm in such a state which does not even let me comb my hair or do my washing or a shower, something as simple as that means that I have to force myself out of the bed. So even if I cannot force myself out of the bed, in the bed itself, I can stretch myself. Before anything that I plan to do,
Right.
just stretch yourself. Let your body feel the movement. I always tell people, start moving first and then feel the movement.
Right.
You have to reframe your own tendencies. The day I start feeling better, I'll go for workout. No, I will feel better if I work out. So let me first work out. Now, workout does not mean going to the gym and hitting hard and all of that. All you need to do is stretch yourself. Just throw your arms around in bed itself while you're tossing and turning in the mornings. The
Correct.
moment you start feeling the blood flowing through your legs, through your system, it definitely gives a boost to your circulation in the brain as well.
Mind.
When that circulation goes to an optimum level, you start feeling the energy itself. It does not shoot you out of that depressive state, but at least gives you some energy to just step out of the bed and walk around. Once you start feeling that movement, gradually you can take it from there. So what's important is to reframe your thinking patterns, that if I'm feeling better, I'll be doing things. Start doing something, you will start to feel better, and from there on, I'll take the lead. That's how it has to be.
Right. So this does not just apply to exercise. I feel this taking these small step applies to other aspects of your life as well.
Exactly.
Everything else.
Definitely,
So
definitely, yes.
right. So yeah, the next question was, I think, what role does genetics have to play in mental illness?
Less. It does
Okay.
play. Genetics is something which can never be challenged.
Mm-hmm.
Never. No matter what is happening in your life, the way you react to situations also, it's always the way we are just brought up, the way we build our personalities, the way we build ourselves. It's always nature versus nurture. So it's
Right.
also how you're brought up, but also what nature is already gifted you in terms of genes. So
Right.
genes are definitely playing a role, but you cannot attribute everything to genes and then say, oh yeah, it's in my genes.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah. I mean, somebody who's if a obese father cannot have a son who has a six pack is not accepted. It's not entirely genes. You can definitely challenge them.
Okay. Right. So the next question is from past 8 months, I'm pretending to be happy and to be good, and it worked so well. And now it seems real. Can this have any negative effect?
When you tell yourself that you're happy and you start feeling happy,
Yeah. When
it
you're
works wonders.
pretending to be happy, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, it works wonders. See, what you keep feeding your mind with, it
Mm-hmm.
starts to process that.
Right.
Okay. Now you've done so good in exams all the time, and there's been one exam which hasn't gone well. You start feeding yourself, you start feeding your brain with the thing that, oh, I was so not good that day. I don't think I'm good enough at that. And you are trying to negate everything else. And
Right.
once you start feeding only that negative to your brain, it tends to process it so strongly, and then it gets consolidated. So it does play a tell yourself I'm happy. You will feel happy. Once you start acting like that, it becomes a habit also for you. So it
Right.
does help. Don't worry, it works wonders. There's an ocean of research to back this particular thing. Whoever it is, please try and talk to other friends also who feel depressed and low in energy, and try to act. Tell them to act the way you are. Great.
So fake it till you make it really works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So the next question is, what if I feel medications have stopped working?
Is this the
Same
entire
person who
question?
was asking. Yeah, she was the same person who was asking about the mood fluctuation and the
Bipolar. Yeah.
medication. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So what if the medications have? She feels that the medications have
Yeah.
stopped working. Yeah,
Yeah.
please check with your consulting doctor. Please have a check with the doctor. You also will are a better judge to think as to how have you been performing off late, and if your episodes tend to come again and again,
Right.
then definitely you need to require certain, you need to do certain changes in the dosages probably. It does happen that over a period of time probably the body becomes used to the same dose, and we tend to uh, require more doses. Or else the other thing can be probably the stress levels have gone a little too much, which are causing me some problems. So even if that particular dose, you don't want to increase the dose and all of that, please check in with the stressors that are playing on your mind of late. That can
Right.
hamper your state of mind, which can probably, I fall in a trap. You might fall in a trap that I need to increase my dose. Probably you don't need to increase your dose, but you need to sort these things out.
Right. Okay. So, doctor, the next question is, I used to be extremely positive and always think about happy things. Wow, this live is, the interface is so weird. I used to be extremely positive and always trying to think the best, and then days of losing my happiness started creeping in. I can break into tears while talking about my body, about my profession. My ambition seemed so achievable. I was a go-getter no matter what challenge was thrown at me, but now it's like a disbelief of anything. Yeah, but right now I'm filled with disbelief over these things.
It's a signal for you to slow down and check your ways. Something that worked for you in the past may not necessarily keep working for you all the time. So we need to always keep re-evaluating ourselves, our performances, our methods. So if such feelings are creeping in, it's high time, or probably it's a very strong signal that you need to slow down, take a break, and re-evaluate, reflect over what's happening and how things can be changed, or what is it that is troubling me. So this troubleshooting will only happen when you try to reflect over it. So it is very normal for us to become less productive over time, and that's when we need to give more time. Sometimes we just tend to accept things for granted. Yeah, I mean, I'll be able to do this. Okay, I will go and get this. Doesn't happen all the time. There are times, and things are very dynamic. All of this is very dynamic. So you also have to keep changing or adapting according to the needs of the moment. So please take time out for yourself and reflect over your own methods right now. High time.
Right. So if an extremely positive person becomes extremely negative, what are some SOS tips that you can give them to just get a shift? Apart from this, of course, and reevaluating what is not working for them. Is there any CBT tip that you can probably give them to, get through
It's
days?
acceptance, first of all. Everyone is doomed to failure. You have to accept this. Okay? Life is just not defined by how happy I am,
Right.
but by how vital I am, probably.
Right.
The role that I fulfill in other domains of life also is important. It's not just about running around for the materialistic things.
Right.
So happiness is not about being happy. It's about being vital.
Right.
So try to think about those things. That's why a paradigm shift is required.
Right.
So that's why we are so focused and so tunnel visioned at only gaining success, achieving these things and materialistic things, that we tend to fall out of the basic psychological needs that we require to be fulfilled. Not these external attributes, but it's about the psychological needs that are not being met with. We are individuals. When we are depressed, we are sad, we basically are individuals with some unmet needs. And what are these unmet needs? These are more psychological than external. And what psychological? Sense of belonging, sense of value in relationships. That's more important. And then comes the money and the job and the car and the house, all of that. So how vital do you feel in terms of your relationships and those psychological needs and those basic requirements of ourselves and the loved ones? It's time probably for you to think about those values and then probably modulate your ways out, devise new ways.
The person is saying that they don't know what the problem is and they're not fulfilling any other aspect of life.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's not just about the job, or it's just not about the materialistic needs. It's about the more meaningful psychological needs which need to be fulfilled. A very rich man does not necessarily be happy. All right. So happiness comes from vitality.
Right.
That's more important. Yeah.
Right. So one needs to stop and take stock of all the good things that are going about in life. There can be 100 bad things that's going on, but there may be 2 to 3 things that are going good for you in the present. So maybe taking stock and giving gratitude for the things that are going in favor of you, like having a loving relationship or having a house to live in, having enough food on your plate. I think that's
practicing gratitude. Practicing gratitude is like the most common denominator in whatever problem you're facing or whatever problem we've just mentioned. Practicing gratitude is of utmost importance, really.
Right. Okay. That brings me to the last section, self-love. Since we are always on the internet, the perception of self-love has been really skewed in our head, and there's this toxic belief of self-love that is just about putting face masks and going for a pedicure or going for a spa. That is self-love. What exactly is self-love, and how practicing self-love can actually improve our self-esteem and help us becoming better mentally?
See, it has, of course, a lot to do with self-esteem, the question that you asked me.
Right.
Now, self-esteem has 2 very strong components. Okay, that's from where self-esteem stems. Basically, self-esteem is nothing but how much value I place in myself, what I think about myself, the opinion that I have about myself is self-esteem. So when you say that your half of the problem is solved.
Right.
What I think about myself. Now, what is self-esteem actually? It's about self-worth and self-efficacy.
Right.
What is self-worth? My value in my relationships, how much people value me, or how much love am I getting from my loved ones, the near and dear ones. Okay, that's how self-esteem is built. One part. That's the self-worth part of it. Self-efficacy means how confident I am in my own abilities to deal with the challenging life situations. That's self-efficacy. These are the 2 things which form my self-esteem. Now, how do they build up? In young children, very young children, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, it's the love they get from their parents, from their significant adults like teachers and all of them. that forms their own self-worth. That forms the self-esteem for younger children, how they are valued from other people around them. In adolescence, and as we grow into our teens and the latter part of our teens, and yeah, very young adulthood, and we're very tender at that age, this focus of self-esteem, like which was provided by our parents and the loving and caring parents and teachers, it tends to shift its focus from these people to our peer group. Now, what becomes very important for me is how my peer group is thinking about me. What do they have to say about my abilities and all of that? That becomes the self-esteem. Then when you tend to grow a little older, what happens is the external source of all the self-esteem tends to shift in your inner self.
Right.
How satisfied am I with my own achievements and the standards that I had set for myself? Have I been able to achieve that? Now, the standard which I set for myself, not for others. That's why self-esteem has to stem from here, from within. What's happening with people is they see posts, they keep scrolling, they see all the highs and the highlights of people's lives and start misattributing or misinterpreting it, that others are living an absolutely amazing and fantastic lives, and I'm the one who's suffering all the time and I don't have anything to post.
Right.
What they don't understand is not necessarily that everything is posted is the entire life picture of that person.
Absolutely.
We all just want to post the highs of our lives and don't want to really share our struggles and all of that with people.
Correct.
And that's why we fall in that trap that everybody else is really leading a very happy and happening life. It's
Right.
not true. You have to understand, once you understand these fundamentals, you will realize that how this comparing becomes very toxic for you and not at all helpful. So that's why you have to stay away. Sometimes a digital detox is required, big time. You have to
Putting
tell
it on
yourself.
mute helps.
Yeah, oh, big time. And you have to tell yourself that I really do not require this media right now.
Right.
You have to manage your own social media in terms of the restrictions of how much you want to use and all of that. That's required very strongly, and you have to understand the fundamentals from where it is stemming, and
Right.
that the fact that people are not posting the truth or probably the exact picture of their lives.
Right. So I always use this term, Mary Kondoing your list. If anyone is making you feel bitter about your life on social media, please mute them, unfollow them. You have no need to follow anyone who's making you feel shitty about yourself. So be
Try your
very
best to avoid.
mindful. Yeah, be very mindful about the stuff you consume online. We'll quickly be
Yeah.
taking questions, Doctor. We have a couple of questions here, which says, when I contrast over my past self to the current state, I feel that I dropped in some of my good habits like photography, etc. So now, when I try to restart my old habits, I feel a mental blockade preventing me to the same due to the conditions I am in.
Very natural. Very natural. See, no matter how gifted we are in a particular ability, no matter how gifted we are in a particular talent, unless we've been doing it consistently, unless we are in that coordination all the time, you cannot be your best self. Every time you try to, you can just pick up a bat and go out and score a century in a match. Is not going to happen.
Right.
So somewhere the focus has not been there, the commitment has not been there. At this stage of your career or wherever you belong, it's so much of preoccupation in the head that you do not feel the same about the old passion that you have. The creativity might not be there to the same level. Right now, there are other important pursuits of life where the other life responsibilities have taken toll on you. You really
Right.
cannot dedicate the same love that you could a few years
Right.
ago. So it's a very normal process. Whatever you can manage to do, please do it, and whatever little enjoyment gives you, feel and acknowledge that enjoyment. You may not be
Right.
the same dancer as you used to be when you were 18, 19, 20 at the
Right.
age of 40, 41, 42, or even 31, 32, because even the other things have come in your way, and the dancing really does not move your feet to the same level as it once used to, because there are so many other things, and simply that your body has not been in that rhythm. So it's a very natural process to feel. Whatever little you can extract from your hobby, acknowledge that happiness and enjoyment, and relish it.
Right. Okay. So next we have a existential question. Since we die anyway and we're randomly thrown into existence bounded in space and time, how are certain actions more meaningful than others? Or in fact, how is there something meaningful at all? Okay.
Yeah, there's more philosophy in this than practicality. And
Okay.
life deals in terms of practicality and not philosophy. Philosophy does is important. I don't tend to completely discard the philosophical point of view, but
Right.
that's not how you look at life. You have to support yourself, you have to support your other. When this existentialism, or when the concept of existential crisis came into picture, the term itself was brought about as a movement in history. It's kind of historical, where how this people tended to talk about existentialism in terms of philosophy. It's an entirely philosophical context, completely philosophical concept as well. So if we do tend to reach this existential crisis when we reach the age of 30, 32, 35, where we are dealing with a lot of things at the same time, and we are at a juncture of a big change in life. And somebody very significant in my life had told me once that 30 hits you like a slap when you reach the age of 30 years. That's how it is, and that's when you tend to think differently, that what have I achieved and what is the meaning of all this? One day it's definitely going to end. But whatever day it is meant to happen, it will happen. Right now, this is the present. You have to live. You have to offer. Keep telling yourself what is it that you can offer to people, not what life has to offer me, or what is going to happen past death. And all of that is not going to work. When it's destined to happen, it will happen. But right now, the present is supposed to be lived. And the better you can live, less you will be thinking in terms of these philosophical search, and concentrate more on what you need to do. Now, is thinking that way, or feeling about those existential crises at this moment, helping you in any way in dealing with your problems?
I doubt.
If these things are not helpful for me, they're not fruitful, and they don't give me returns, I really need to switch my paradigm.
Right.
And have a more practical approach towards life.
Okay.
Yes, philosophy is good, but practical approach is so important to navigate through life challenges. So when there are these thoughts which tend to block you and don't allow you to see further, you have to tell yourself whether these are helping my cause in life.
Right.
If not, please tend to discard these questions and concentrate on life as a whole.
Right. Thank you for that. I hope that answers that question. One last question is it okay to stop medication without consulting your psychiatrist?
Not at all. Big no. Big no. It's not that psychiatrists love prescribing medicines. When you don't need them, you don't need them, and they know it. They will tell you to stop. When you've really been doing well, it is observed that you are recovering well. When you reach a phase of recovery, you definitely are given a trial of stopping the medications. But that's when you reach recovery and not remission. There's a difference between remission and recovery. Remission is when your symptoms have decreased to an extent which is not troublesome, but the symptoms are still there. So that's when I have remitted in symptoms. But when I've recovered, means there are just no symptoms, and I can perform well socially and occupationally. That's what I call recovery. So once I reach recovery, definitely we do give a trial of stopping the medicines. Right. So if you have to stop, please, I think the doctor is in a better position to tell you whether stopping is safe or no, and it's for your good.
Right.
Understand that.
Okay. I think the person who asked the existential question is again asking something about thinking comes natural and should be abandoned. I don't think that's what he was trying to say. I mean, please.
No. Thinking is a very natural process, and brain is called as the biggest wanderer on earth for some reason. Because thousands of thoughts can cross your mind in 1 second. That's how big a wanderer your brain is, our mind is. So definitely a lot of thoughts are going to strike you. But thoughts that lead you nowhere and tend to make you fall in a trap where you look at problems and not solutions are thoughts which we need to avoid or distract ourselves from. So you can interchange thoughts from negative perspective towards a more positive perspectives. It's not that you can completely stop that, but you can definitely ask yourself to switch on to better thoughts and try to be goal directed towards those thoughts. When you are goal directed towards a particular thing, these negative thoughts tend to diminish.
Okay.
It is not possible, practically impossible for us to stop thinking. Thoughts are definitely going to cross you. But if they're not helpful, you need to come up with a strategy which can make you deal with that and diminish these thoughts.
Right. Okay. I think that was a really long session, Doctor. And I like just few parting words. I think whatever questions were answered here were just a part of this session. If you really want to get a better solution to your problem, I would suggest getting in touch with a psychiatrist or a therapist. A lot of questions cannot be solved here in detail because we are time bound and they require extensive discussion. So I would request you all to get in touch with any doctor or Dr. Rohit if you're facing some issues related to mental health. On that note, doctor, could you please tell our audience how therapy is absolutely normal and medicating is absolutely okay, and the importance of checking into therapy for the questions that couldn't be solved here specifically?
See, when we feel mentally fatigued or overwhelmed, it definitely transpires into non-productivity in our personal lives and in all domains. It starts with one domain, tends on to encroach on the other domains as well, and then reflects itself as complete incapacity to function with in alignment with what I have planned for myself in life.
Right.
It tends to really bog you down and affects your aspirations, your relationships, and tends to really cause troubles big time in life. Talking to somebody helps a lot, but if it's a therapy, if it's a therapist talking to you, that talking, whatever you call counseling or therapy, this is more structured. These are people who are better trained in dealing with emotions, in understanding the basis of these emotions, the roots from where they arise, and they can structure your way of thinking and probably reconstruct your way of thinking in a more aligned manner, so that you tend to look through that lens of a very neutral position and without any bias.
Right.
So there's nothing wrong if you have a mental illness where you cannot, when you have anxiety and depression and bipolar disorders, and these are things which are happening in certain part of your body, that's brain. This is also an organ of your body. Just how you value heart attack and any liver problem, any kidney problem, even mind is your own part. There's nothing wrong if something is disturbing this is so vital part of your body. This is the one which is like a computer controlling everything. So please be free, feel free to seek help, encourage people to seek help, post more positive things, post things about people who have recovered from such illnesses, and actually start a hero campaign, I would say, talking and discussing about these people who have recovered, not just from mental illness, but in fact post things about people who have encountered COVID-19 infection, fought their way out and have been treated, so that other people also feel the same courage and the confidence that these things can be fought.
Right. Okay. That's really helpful, Dr. Rohit. Thank you so much for joining us. To all
Thanks
the
a lot.
lovely viewers who asked questions, you can get in touch with Dr. Rohit. You can take his number from me or reach out to him through his Instagram account for a session. As you would have known, he's a really good psychiatrist, and his patients can vouch for it, I'm sure. So that being said, thank you so much, doctor, for joining us. And I know I said only 30 minutes, but it's been 2 hours. So thank you
I
so
enjoyed.
much.
I enjoyed the session completely. I love talking a lot, and I've been known as someone who extends the sessions because I love talking and make people talk so that we get a better understanding of things. So
Yeah.
I really enjoyed your session, and you're very energetic when it comes to facilitating a session. So that was one good thing. And thanks to all the viewers and the questions. The enthusiasm was because of the questions asked.
Absolutely. So everyone who was brave